Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here again in front of you with our next speaker, Mrs. Manju Singhania. She is an amazing human being, a very down-to-earth and a soft-spoken personality. Mrs. Manju Singhania is the founder director for Joy of Learning Foundation, Dehradun, an early communication interventionist, teacher training consultant, former director for training and development of Latika Rai Foundation, Dehradun. With an enriching experience of 24 years in teaching children with different special needs across different age groups and training parents and teachers, she has a profound knowledge of a number of languages like Hindi, Telugu, Bengali, and English. With a master's in social work, Mrs. Singhania is a trained special educator, a master trainer for learning language and loving it, and teacher talk programs from the Henin Center in Canada to train pre and primary school teachers and parents for young children. She is a trained narrative therapist, a branch of counseling, certified in Spark Communication from Henin Center. She has been a member of the state resource group of SSA in Ramsar, Uttarakhand in the past. Experience in training resource teachers, doctors, ASHA workers, and Anganwadi workers, paramedical staff, parents, mainstream teachers, and principals. She is the joint winner of CNN IBN Real Hero Award, winner of Jijabai Women Achievers Award for contribution in the field of disability in Uttarakhand. Let's welcome Dr. Manju Singhania. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, a very good evening, Reena. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine too. It's wonderful to see you and talk to you after a very long time.
Thank
I think
you so
the last
much.
we met when you came to my center
Yes,
in about.
when you have started Joy of
Yes,
Learning.
yes. Yeah.
So, ma'am, again, what was the reason you took up special education? A very because you could have taken some other profession also.
Definitely, I could have. It just so happened that I didn't have any experience like that when I was growing up. But I did see many children with special needs around. And when I got married and came to Uttarakhand, came to Dehradun, I actually went to give an interview when I thought of working. I went to give an interview in a child creativity center. Yeah. But because of my background in Montessori and nursery teachers training and everything, and Montessori, as you know, has was started because of children with special needs, and because of that training that I had, and I was the head of the department in a Montessori institution in Calcutta. So because of that, and I think when I went for this interview and people sitting over there and they were about to start a school with special needs for children with special needs. I'm talking about the Latika Rai Foundation. And that's how I got into it. I didn't actually plan for it. But when I went into it and I just thought about it because I was getting the opportunity to join quite a few mainstream schools. And there was the special school, which was not even started. And they were only planning about it. And when I thought about it, I just thought that why not go into something different? And I anyway had an inclination towards, you know, uh, people who were learning differently. And so I just thought, let me give it a try. And yes, I think that was the best decision of my life, I could say. And it has been a wonderful journey since then.
Ma'am, the humility that you possess says all about you. So, ma'am, I would like to know something. There is a lot of things accomplished till now. What do you say about your journey? You've already discussed how you got into special education, but
Mhm.
what made you stay with kids with special needs, what made you nurture them? What made you more motivated? Like, what motivated you more to
Mhm.
go, not to go anywhere else, but to stay with them and retire from there as well?
Okay.
Because
Um,
it's been a pretty long journey.
Yes, it has. It has been a wonderful journey, I would say.
Yes.
A very beautiful journey with a lot of ups and downs too, like any other journey that would be there. But I would say that I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I mean, I had no idea. It's like, when you come to know about certain things and you actually start seeing them around. I had never much seen children with disabilities when I was growing up. But as I got into this field and I learned more about it, and I could see it everywhere. Everywhere there was something or the other was, people wanted to you know children were struggling with studies, or parents were struggling with it. And at the time that we actually started, and that was the time when children with special needs were actually kept at home. I mean, we literally, when we started the school, we literally had to go to each and every house to look for them and ask if there is a child who is having some kind of special need, and then ask them to bring them to the school. That was a very difficult task, because people at that time, they were more comfortable with nahi koi nahi hai, and then they were hiding the children with special needs because there was a stigma attached to that. And I think we have come a long way from that. There is nothing like that anymore. People are much more aware than what we were at that particular time. Once I got into it and then learned more about it, there were so many. It like it's just opened a Pandora's box for me, kind of thing that, अच्छा ये भी हो सकता है, ये भी हो सकता है. There were so many different things, and then you start thinking about the human brain. How is it working, and why is it making this kind of why is there, no, how do we learn things, and what are the things we actually stop children from learning. So then you think about ways how you can still teach without even though the problems in learning are there.
Sorry
So
to
in that
interrupt.
way, yeah, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, ma'am. I've got two questions. They've just popped up. One is Mr.
Okay,
Ganesh Devarajan. He says,
okay,
how is it teaching virtually now than being present physically?
okay. Yeah, we were getting to that about online teaching, right?
Exactly.
Um, right. I mean, that is a lot of difference in, of course, physically teaching is a very different thing. But now that there is no option, I mean, look at us. We are sitting and having to communicate via
Exactly.
this
Though we could
internet
have met
platform.
like being in the same city.
Exactly, exactly. Same city, nearby places. We could still have done that. But of course, virtual learning is, firstly, it is a boon, I would say, because there is a big advantage for that. We were, maybe if the situation that we are in right now, if we were in the same situation about 15 years back, I don't think, I mean, I'm not sure what we would have been done, what we would do at that particular time without all these technological advancements present. But yes, online teaching, we have been, every school is quite into it right now, and the virtual teaching is going on. We are also doing it quite a bit. So yes, that is the option, and that is the best possible option right now, because people are able to communicate, and
Ma'am,
although there are
but
differences,
how about kids with learning disabilities and other special needs? They do not
yeah,
understand what is virtual education. They do not pick up what is
exactly,
virtual education, and
yes,
that is where
exactly.
the glitch is.
Exactly. Yeah, that is what I was coming to. When you're talking about children from mainstream, that is so much more easier because you go along and there's a lot of understanding there. Children, mainstream children, but that too older children. I'm not yet talking about the younger ones. Okay, preschool children is a different and a whole another aspect to it that we would be talking about. But yes, the older children definitely there's a lot of ease into it. But when we come to children with learning difficulty or children with special needs, there is, of course, you cannot actually expect the child to sit in front of the camera and listen to you, and
Exactly.
because that itself doesn't happen even in physical teaching. Even you're
Exactly.
sitting face to
Ma'am,
face, that's not a
on this,
possibility.
there is a question. How do you find it is from Amir Alipin?
Mm.
He
Okay.
says, ma'am, how do you find attitudes of parents and family towards children of learning disabilities? Do you
Mhm.
find that parents even recognize it?
Uh, they do recognize it. I won't say that they won't recognize it, but there is a denial to it. There is a
Yes.
denial to a great extent because, and I think society on the large is
Is
responsible for
responsible for that.
this denial
We
also
being
because the
in the
stigma
same
attached to that.
profession, both of us
Every
in the same profession, we know what
exactly,
exactly it is and how it
exactly.
is.
Right, right. Because every parent, and it's not wrong also, every parent does want that their child should go to a mainstream school and a good school and, learn everything like everybody else. You won't believe, I'll give you an example of a parent who had come to me, and although the child was achieving about 75%, this family was living in a joint family, and this was an amazing little cute little child, class 1, only in class 1. And so the father came to me and then we had a long discussion. I looked at the child, and after doing a lot of assessment and everything, I actually didn't understand what the problem was. So I spoke to the parent, so I asked him, like, why did you bring him over here? He seems to be doing good. So the parents' answer was that ma'am is getting 75%. I said, yeah, that's okay. So he said, why not 90%? Because his cousins, all the other children in the house are getting 90%. And then my wife and myself, we feel really bad that he's not performing that well, So that is the thinking. Everybody
Exactly.
wants the child to.
For this, I would say that parents are knowingly or unknowingly pushing the kids into percentage rat race and mounting the pressure on them,
Exactly.
which some
That's the
parents,
thing.
some students, and in fact, some children can accept, but not everybody. A
Exactly.
child,
Some
a
children
child,
could cope with it.
exactly,
They have the
exactly,
ability to cope with it. And some
exactly,
children, they actually don't understand what's wrong. They feel that I am actually trying to do everything. I'm giving my best. I'm, trying to read the whole night and recta marofai and everything. But by the time I go to give that exam, I'm not getting good marks. This child actually doesn't understand that, my ability, what is happening to me. So when the parents expectations are so high and we're giving so much of pressure on the child, so it becomes actually, it is a child who's suffering, you know
exactly.
uh,
Be it school or
that's
be it parents, everybody
everyone.
has. This is what Mr. Ramesh Joshi has also said. It's not
Okay.
only parents; even schools are indulging in this rat race,
They
and
are,
I
they are
agree to
definitely
it. I agree to it. A
right.
child who is having a learning disability or a child who is not scoring well, he is
Right.
neglected. He's
Yes, of
neglected, and
course.
that is what hurts the
And
child.
the data says there are 51% of children in schools
Exactly,
in the age group of 6 to 18 years. Between the
exactly,
age group of 6 to 18 years, the school going years, there are 51% of children in present in school right now who are suffering with learning difficulties. Yeah.
exactly,
So the kind of intervention needed over here, the kind of thought process that is needed, because people feel that there is no obvious special need. nothing's happening. The child does not have a physical disability, or is not having intellectual
Like
impairment
even if we
or
speak up
anything
in
like
front of
that.
everyone, saying that the
Sorry?
child
Yeah.
is having, if we speak up in front of people that the child is having a disability,
Mhm.
learning disability rather, they would say,
Yeah.
अच्छा आपका बच्चा तो बिल्कुल ठीक ठाक दिखता है. मतलब if we are
Right.
discussing on it, अरे वो बच्चा तो बिल्कुल नॉर्मल दिखता है, उसको कैसे होगा,
बिल्कुल.
वो सब कुछ
बिल्कुल.
ठीक से कर रहा है, वो पढ़ना ही
Right.
नहीं चाहता होगा. This is what people say.
Right. है ना? वो उसको टर्म्स दिए जाते हैं. द बच्चा इज लेजी, करना नहीं चाहता है, ही इज नॉट मोटिवेटेड, you know things like that. And it's I think it's just not fair, because children with learning difficulty, they really want to try. They're not making your life difficult because they feel चलो ठीक है मैं पंगा लेके देखता हूँ, but they're not able to,
They are
that
struggling themselves from inside. Within they are
exactly,
struggling. That when my
exactly,
other peers are about, they are going on well with maths, going
right,
on well with Hindi, going on with anything, that is concerned, where they have to put in lot of concentration and all, they're not able to do it. And the
right,
teachers
yes, of
and we
course.
teachers and parents are the ones who brand them and tag them. That is what I call branding, tagging, and nagging. I'm strictly
Exactly.
against all this. And I think you are also on the same lines.
Of course, the labeling is like really against it, because once when we label a child, that stigma is there. That's another thing. But it's also like you are kind of, I again, I'll tell you about a school I had gone to visit, and it's all about children who have been included because of some special need or something. So when the principal was taking me around, and so he just said, okay, he asked the teacher, can you tell me who are the included children? So it's like, what are we doing over here? That
And when
child, I can
when we
imagine
are
the
even
feeling
having
that the
it,
child must be having. Yeah, the whole
when we are having
point
an
and the
inclusive
whole
setup, we
exactly the
don't
whole
need to
point and
find
whole concept of inclusion
exactly,
is gone over there.
exactly.
Even
It's
when
just
you term
completely
things
out of
like
it.
that, exactly. So that
So,
is
ma'am, your CV says emotion. It clearly mentions that apart from special education and teacher trainer, etc., you're also an early communication interventionist. What exactly is it? And if you could explain us something, I would really be happy because people might be quite inquisitive about knowing what exactly it is.
exactly. So, as the name suggests, we are talking about early communication. And when there are difficulty in that early communication, we are going to, the early communication interventionist will try to do some intervention at that particular point. Now, I'll try to explain about it. You know about communication. Communication is, of course, a two-way process. And when we are talking about communication, we are talking about an expressive language. Like, suppose the child wants to say something, right? So he should have the appropriate words to ask that particular question, or even to express his feelings, right? The words should be there, and the appropriate use at that particular time. What does he need to say, right? That thing should be there. That is the expressive language. Then the second part is the receptive language. Receptive language is when somebody else is saying something, how much do I understand, right? That is how much am I receiving that language. So the expressive language and the receptive language. And what I feel with all this experience, also what I've seen till now, is unless you have the proper communication going on, no learning can take place unless you are able to express what you want, and unless you are able to receive what somebody else is telling you. No learning can take place. So we have to sort that out first. The communication has to be sorted out first. So, and what happens is, most of the time, and here we are not only talking about speech. Speech is just a part of communication. Communication can happen even without speech. We are always talking about non-verbal communication. We're talking about facial expression. We're talking about body language, gestures, sign language, pictures. There are loads of things which are to be used apart from speech. So what happens is when a child is not talking or not able to express himself, people straight away think about a speech therapist. कि speech therapist के पास जाते हैं, and that is good. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong in that, because that is the first thing that you need to actually see. But also think about children who are actually able to speak, you know. But when they go into the classroom, you will always see that if there are children of, in a classroom of 25 to 30 children, there might always be one or two children who are too shy, extremely shy to come up and speak in front of the teacher or say something or even ask a question. And that, it's not totally because of the self confidence, but also because they may not have the appropriate words. They may not know the pragmatically how and what and where to use things like that. There is something called selective mutism. Selective mutism is where a child will speak his heart out in the house. When he's at home and he's with siblings and parents, everything is like fine, totally fine. The moment he steps out of the house, it's like a zipper on the lips and no sound is heard. There are many children in school. The teachers come up and say that he never speaks a word in the school. But the parents say, घर पे तो सब कुछ ठीक ठाक चलता है. It's so here it's not the problem of speech, it is something else over here. So there are innumerable number of strategies that we use. There are various kinds of things that we do. Early communication interventionist is all about sparking the communication where there is a lack of communication, where it has not happened because of various reasons. That could be so many things. So what do you do to spark off that communication, to start it off? So there are various kinds of things that we do, and that's what makes me an early communication interventionist. And I've got this training from the Hannon Center in Canada. It's something called Spark Communication, and we also hold a lot of sessions with parents to start off this, giving them various kinds of strategies and working on it basically.
Ma'am, you being an early communication interventionist, this is a question from Mr. Amir Alipin. He says, Ma'am, what are the earliest signs to gauge if a child is having communication problem leading to learning disability?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, because suppose the child, by the age of 1 year, the child would have, at least one word. He would say, "Mummy, Papa, Pankha, Pani, light," and things. Then slowly he will, by the time that is 1.5 to 2 years, he'll start combining words. Yeah, by the age of 18 months, he'll be combining words and say, "Pani de do, bahar jana," things like that. So this is all the typical kind of development, the typically how the language development occurs. So naturally, when you see that there is a delay in this, when parents are able to see that the child is not actually using words, and then not only that, when the communication, the big parts of communication is having an eye contact, trying to follow instructions. When I give some instructions, one should be able to follow it, so that the receptive language is there. So that actually shows that things are going on in place. So when that doesn't happen in time. And the other thing is, what I have seen is that when a child is not able to discriminate between sounds, yeah, when say suppose a bell ringing, or when you're pouring water from one container to another container, you hear a sound. And things like this, when you ask the child to close his eyes and identify these sounds, so there is he's not able to identify them. And these are the very beginning stages I'm talking about. So when that doesn't happen, and when you constantly see that these are the earliest signs of how the communication is not happening, and the child is hardly saying anything to you, he's not able to report an incident. If something has happened in school, he's not able to come back and tell you. Or but there could be other reasons for that. That is a different thing, why children don't tell us what is happening in school. It's not always the communication disorder, because, for example, I'll give you an example. If the
It's their naughty,
child
not you can call it. It's their naughty disorder as well.
not
It's their
not
naughtiness
exactly
disorder
that.
as well.
No, not exactly that, I would say. But suppose I'll tell you that a child comes home running, very excited, and tells कि मम्मी मम्मी आज पता है क्या हुआ कि स्कूल में किसी का बर्थडे था. And the mother immediately says that हाँ वो ठीक है, but first tell me, how did your maths test go? you know so immediately you're actually giving messages to the child, and you're trying to tell him that your interests don't matter to me. First, it's my interest. I want to know, how did your maths test go? So that actually gives the subtle messages to the child. And then the next time something happens, he may not come back and tell you, firstly because he knows that mom is not that interested in my activities, and secondly because if I bring up that subject, it might lead to something that I really don't want to talk about, that is the maths test. So that actually prevents some children from actually coming back and reporting to you. But I'm not talking about this kind of situation. I'm talking about they are not able to. Even if you have something interesting, something has happened, mom is really interested to know also, but the child is not able to form proper sentences, or stick to a particular subject. When you're talking about certain things, the child is not able to stick to that subject, but going all over the place. So these are the various kinds of small you can indications that you get that the language development is not happening properly. And if the sound discrimination is not there, if the language the development, if the proper pre-reading skills have not been there in place, so all this might lead to having a difficulty when the child goes to the class, writing
Mr.
spellings
Yeah,
wrong because he's not able to hear the sounds of the spellings. So all these things will create problems.
ma'am, a very sensible question. We need to really address this, and we need to even try and promote this thing, because you and me, we know we do not have many special educators around,
Hmm.
right? The number of teachers and the number of special educators, if we calculate, so we are just 2 or 3% of the entire 100%.
Hmm.
Right.
So
Mr.
what is the
Ganesh
question?
Devraj,
Hmm.
he asked, are there enough teachers or education centers to help these differently abled children or adults? Isn't
Hmm.
there a need to have a government legislation to facilitate the growth of schools and also teaching centers?
Of course, there is one. And we all know what is the situation of special schools over here. And there are just a handful of special schools. And out of that, also, if you're talking about, because uh, see, it all goes back to so many different things. It's just not one aspect to it. It's about how the training of these special teachers is going on. What kind of training colleges are there? Are the teachers who are coming out, who are becoming a special educator, do they have the necessary required skills to do that? And and the kind of situation that we are in, everybody is looking for a government job. And there is of course, with the RTE coming in, it's mandatory, and it's that the government schools should be employing special educators. But then again, the government schools are situated in such places, because I myself have been on the panel of selecting resource teachers for Uttarakhand, basically. But Uttarakhand being a geographically very, very difficult state, by the time these all the teacher training was happening in Dehradun, the capital. Yeah, and teachers are needed all over Uttarakhand, everywhere. So the teachers who've been trained in Dehradun were sent to hilly regions, and it didn't work out. They just came back, after a few months of working over there because the situation was difficult, and then the proper monitoring is not there. The training colleges, I would say, really need to, because now special education, there are lots of people opting for it. The colleges are having, like, great number of applications to become special educators, but we also need to regulate the quality of special the training being given. So
Exactly what I have noticed, ma'am. There are most of the students, because we do not have LD in most of the colleges. They are
mm,
opting either for MR or VI or HI.
yeah.
I don't, and just because of the dearth of colleges where there are courses for LD, people are ending up only taking up online courses.
Yeah, there is. And I would say actually there should be a change in the whole way that the B.Ed education and everything is going on. When you're anyway teaching, when you're anyway preparing or training a teacher to a person to become a teacher, yeah. So that, the mainstream B.Ed course itself should have a, a big subject called learning difficulties or children with special needs, because any teacher, I would say any teacher, when she's facing in her career, she would definitely be facing children with special needs, and every time she cannot depend on a special teacher coming in taking it. why
Exactly, because
can't,
now
why can't a general
RTI,
teacher deal with learning difficulty? What do you need?
because
You only
I
need
think,
some tools.
I think, ma'am, we can even give a suggestion that, like, RCI is running special learning disability courses or other courses separately. Why
Right.
doesn't RCI collaborate with UGC and normal
Yeah,
BEd teachers keep a specific subject?
that is what should happen.
Exactly,
It is,
like
I mean, we are doing
unnecessary
exclusion over there, and then we want to talk about inclusion.
inclusion. Right,
You know?
right, right.
So
Ma'am,
when
Mrs.
you're training,
Mrs. Reena Jaggi has just logged in. She says it's high time that schools and management should be educated how to effectively work for inclusion.
yes, of course.
Further, she says difference between speech and communication needs to be explained clearly even to people highly qualified professionals in the special education field.
Yes, yes, yes. Many people are thoroughly confused about it, as I said, and it's always communication means, मतलब सब कुछ मिला के it only comes boils down to a speech issue. Yeah, and I've seen so many parents of children with autism where you know that it's not just the mechanisms, the speech mechanism which is affected, but there are so many other things, because speech is not only about your oral mechanism. It's not about how your lips and your tongue and your teeth are working to bring out the sound, but it's also about what you're thinking and how the information is being processed, and that the entire process itself, is different. And that is what people need to understand, that it's not always just a speech issue, but language and communication is a huge part of it, huge part. And I
Exactly.
agree completely with Reena Jaggi about teachers being
Exactly. Not only that,
trained.
ma'am, like we have specifications in special education, that is
Mhm.
VI, HI, MR, or ASD, asparagus syndrome, learning disability.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, I want to make it clear to other audience also. Can a teacher who is trained, not completely trained, like she's a psychologist, supposing just for an example, she's a psychologist and she is dealing with a child with learning disability, Side by side, she is continuing with her certification in autism spectrum disorder, ASD. Can she deal a child with LD? Whereas she's not yet qualified enough to deal a child who is LD.
Well, yeah, such things are happening, and there are lots of counselors
And
and
it's really a matter of concern, ma'am. It's
but
really a
but
matter of concern.
actually, yeah, that it is definitely a matter of concern. But at the same time, if this person, if you're talking about a psychologist, so to get that degree of psychology and become a psychologist, so psychology does have a great uh, part of learning difficulty in their studies also, because they deal with psychology is all about brain, and they do and about how one is thinking, and yeah, in their curriculum, I think there is something about it, about children with learning difficulties. So it is not entirely wrong that they are doing that, but yeah, to know more about it, uh, like you're saying, if the person is also pursuing diploma in ASD or something like that, so yeah, they need to learn a little bit more, of course. Um, and it's good that they have an interest in that particular topic, that we need to have people to come forward and work with children who are actually struggling in schools. So yeah, counselors and psychologists are doing that. So yeah,
But ma'am, don't you think that the sorry, we are going a bit out of the topic, but the
yeah,
thing is that don't you think that a person who's just a psychologist, she does not know all the strategies to implement on a LD child. She does not know how to make IPs because LD, if we need to handle a child who is learning, who is having learning disability, we need to prepare a blueprint of how we are going to implement the
work with that
strategy.
child. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
that is it.
And we need to prepare proper IEPs. And a
Mm.
psychologist cannot prepare an IEP.
Mm.
What would you say about that?
Uh, well, they can. It's
Sorry,
easier. I
it's
mean,
a bit out of
it's
the league or out of the this
yeah.
out
I
of the
think
context.
we
But
shouldn't be targeting psychologists as such.
no, no, no. We are not targeting. It's just
Not
a
that.
question that I had.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, because you being in
Right.
this field for
But
quite some
yeah.
time,
But
and you
what I have seen personally is, if we take two people, like a layman who's like a teacher who's just done a B.Ed, yeah, and a psychologist. So I would say that a psychologist would be more appropriate to actually deal with just with a than a teacher who's just been doing her B.Ed. So because there is a lot of other learning also is taking place, they learn about testing a little bit, and they learn about how if the child is not learning, what maybe not exactly to make an IEP or to draw on the strategies and to work with the children, but it'll be easier for them to learn, more than a teacher. I think it'll be much more easier for the psychologist to grasp things and catch up things and actually work with children with learning difficulties. I've seen that, yeah. But also, we cannot say that if you've just passed out and from psychology, done an MA psychology, and just go and start continuing with children with special needs, that might be a little difficult situation. Yeah.
right. So let's come back to the topic. It was quite like this thing was going on in our minds in quite some time because I was just talking to a few parents and like this is a question which one of the parents asked me. So I
Mhm.
said it was around 3 4 days back that we were discussing about it, and I said
Okay.
don't worry. On 29th, we are having a session with Mrs. Manju Singhania, and she's definitely going to answer these questions. So, ma'am, let's talk a little about Joy of Learning Foundation. What exactly is it?
Well, Joy of Learning Foundation is a project of a trust called Shanti Welfare Trust. It's one of the projects of it, and it is an intervention, center for children with developmental difficulties, and also a remedial center for children with learning difficulties. So we have
Right.
various sessions going on, and children with different special needs like autism and intellectual difficulties and Down syndrome. And so many children come over there, and then we have sessions in the afternoon as well as in the morning for children. And children with learning difficulties, either they go to schools in the morning, the mainstream schools, and come to us in the afternoon because of the issues that they are having, struggling with reading, writing, spelling, mathematics, and things like that. So they either come in the afternoon, or we also have children coming from different places like Saranpur, Haridwar, and Delhi, and Meerut and near about places. So they come once a month, and we provide a plan for the parents to carry out at home. And there's also phone consultation happening now, more of it because we are doing a lot of online consultations. So I'm actually consulting people right from Chennai to Bangalore, so they're calling up from that places also. Apart from this, we also have adult communication program, social communication, because there are a few young adults coming to us above 18 years of age who are having learning difficulty, but at the same time there's a lot of communication difficulty because the pragmatic communication, how to talk to people in general, what to say, and the do's and don'ts of things. People want the social skills to be improved, the behavior things to be improved. So that happens. We also have a section of the spark communication that I was talking about. So there are parents who come with young children who have difficulty in communication. So we provide a home program for the parents. We show them the strategies, and that's what happens. We also have an underprivileged girls education program going on. So that is there. And then there's a lot of training programs because joy of learning is very heavily on training, because I really believe that unless teachers and parents are equipped with the right amount of knowledge and the right kind of strategies, it's difficult for them to deal with children at home or at school. So yeah, we go to different schools and do a lot of training on inclusion and different topics on that. Apart from that, we have the certificate courses from the Hannon Center on teacher talk and learning language and loving it. So we provide that. A lot of parent counseling and teacher training sessions go on. So that is something that we do. So, and we see that everything is done in a fun way, because
That is
unless
the exact joy of learning.
exactly, and unless because I really believe that unless you enjoy doing something, you really don't want to do it, be it adults or children. Yeah. So
And
that's
that
how
is what brings us into special education because we want to work with children and we enjoy working with
I
them.
enjoy working. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I wanted to ask one more thing. What would you say about how difficult the present situation has been for children with special needs and their families?
Um, for everyone, it has been very difficult for all of us. We all know that it's been a very difficult situation, particularly for parents of all children in general. But when you're talking about children with special needs, it has been a very, very difficult situation. I mean, think about a child, if you're talking about children with autism, the rigidity of the routine is there. And it's very difficult for them to understand a concept of, you're not supposed to go out, you know, but why? And that is a difficult thing to understand. So parents are resorting to various kinds of threats कि ये है वो है ऐसा हो जाएगा वो हो जाएगा. So whatever they are able to do to make the child understand in that way. Children with hyperactivity, with ADHD, it is extremely difficult, and I have been getting right from the day that we all started into this lockdown situation since March. I've been getting calls from parents saying कि मैम ये बहुत परेशान कर रहा है और नई आदतें सीख रहा है. And the other thing that's happening is it's also creating a lot of tension for parents, because the other family members are also at home. People are working from home, you know the help is not coming, so parents have all that extra work to do. And apart from that, this child who used to go to a school or to a place or an intervention center at least for 2 to 3 hours, that actually gave some kind of a respite to parents, and that was not happening. So it has been a very, very difficult situation. So we are constantly trying to give suggestions and strategies. So it is impossible to keep a child with hyperactivity occupied for all the hours of his when he's awake. So that has been a difficult situation, I would say. But yeah, people are coping up, and we are trying to give them various kinds of strategies to do with that. There's a lot of trial and error going on, and the good thing is that many, again, it will come back to gluing to the telephone, to the mobile phones or
Exactly.
media.
That was
But
the next
parents,
question that I was about to come to.
parents are resorting to that because there's no other option for them, basically.
Yeah, my question goes, as you know, in today's situation, everyone is restored to online teaching and online classes. How would you also have you also started doing this in your organization because you're
Yeah,
dealing with the children? And
yes, we have.
if yes, how do you think online classes for special children are different from that of mainstream children?
See, like we already spoke about it, children from mainstream classes and older children. I'm stressing on the point of older children and not preschool children. So it is easier for them to interact with teachers, easier for them to understand what's happening and then go on with it. But children with special needs, and of course, we have started our online classes also, and that is what's happening. But we always require the parent to be there. You need to give the strategies to the parent. You need to ask them to explain what's happening, because most of the time what is happening is when the child is seeing the video or coming to the mobile phone or laptop, so they would immediately want to go to YouTube and start on their cartoon movies or whatever that they have been used to watching all this time. So that is a difficulty, because you cannot have that device there sitting and they not watching what they want to do. So they either snatch it off, or they want to throw that, or just throw a tantrum and lie down on the floor and not want to do anything. So yeah, those are the difficult things which are coming up. um, Although it's slightly easier with children with learning difficulties, because they're at least able to listen to you and maybe trying to talk to you and do that. But children with other difficulties and special needs like autism and ADHD and other things, mentally, intellectual impairment and everything. So yeah, there are difficulties with that. So we do a lot of interaction with parents. We send them plans, and we send them worksheets that they could do. So that's how it's happening. It is different from mainstream children. I would say that it is
So,
a
ma'am,
little difficult.
have you ever been involved in mainstream education?
Yes,
And have
yeah.
you been training mainstream teachers as well?
Yes, yes, yes. We do a lot of mainstream teaching. Like I told you, training is one of them. And like as you read, that I was a part of the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan and Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan. So not only in that, I mean, Uttarakhand, of course, we've done a lot of training. Done trainings for ASHA workers and Anganwadi workers.
Yes.
Anganwadi workers are, people working with young children. So mainstream education, and since I was a Montessori teacher basically earlier, and I've had a lot of experience with young children who are going to the mainstream school, and training a lot of mainstream teachers on various kinds of topics, because right from the time that RTE came about and Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan started this movement with mainstream training mainstream teachers, so that has been happening a lot. And yeah, we've been doing a lot of training for mainstream teachers all along.
Right.
Yeah.
So, ma'am, what are your thoughts on online teaching in general? and online teaching for preschool children in particular, because like there are news that preschool kids are also having online education.
Right.
What would you say about that?
Yeah. See, online education in general, I'm talking about, is a wonderful thing basically, because that is giving us an option to be in touch with children and they be in touch with their syllabus. And the teachers are doing a lot of hard work on making plans and making videos and sending to the children. And although the housework is also there, but still they're continuing with teaching all the kind of thing that they're doing online teaching. So I think that's a great thing. And online, we are also doing a lot of online training, because a lot of webinars are going on. As you know, I've conducted quite a few webinars.
Yes, ma'am.
So all these things are going on. So the training is going on. As for preschool children, I would differ here a little bit, because even before the online training, I think the way that the preschool education and the preschool uh, children are being dealt with is very, very depressing at times. Apart from some of the schools in India who are really, focused on it and extremely, on a high level, they're working with children with preschool, children, kindergarten, and everything. So they are doing a lot of activities. But we are talking about India, and we're talking about the majority of preschools, which are resorting to only uh, reading, writing, and ABCD सिखाने के ऊपर जो पूरा जोर है, because we as educators we are always talking about how the crucial and the most important years are from 0 to 6 years, and that is when the most development of the brain happens. Now, we all know that 90% of the brain development happens during these years, and the 10% goes on in the other years. We are talking about the synaptic connections which are happening constantly, your brain connections making, and that is the highest. 700 synaptic connections per second is what is happening at the age of 0 to 5 years. Now this kind of development, so what has started occurring is, the thought is, since so much the child is able to learn and so much of development is happening, let's give him as much of things to do as possible. जो हम एक जमाने में क्लास 1 या 2 में करते थे, it's come down to class, it's come down to preschool. I don't know what that is all about. It is preschool, it is not schooling. So we have actually brought the schooling to preschool, where we have forgotten about the priorities that we need to look at. There are so many things that we actually need to focus on than just doing the schooling things, the reading, writing aspect of it. you know so we are we are not able to focus actually, basically. So most of the schools, I've seen the online classes that is going on with my own family. I mean, there are two nieces of mine who have young children, and they keep telling me, and I've spoken to many other young parents recently also. And I've seen that a young child of 3 years, 3.5 years, is made to color, acha aap ye karo, talking about colors. And there are 25 children across, 25 to 30 children on screen. And the teacher is actually maybe not able to pay attention to each child. And one of my niece was telling that by the time my daughter's turn comes, it is like it's already over. The class is over, the time is over. So they're not able to do that. And the child is also, that entire environment of the house and the schooling going on. So it is becoming very difficult for them. The other thing I would say is that, physiologically, if you're talking about the physical development of a child, so we know that a child is actually ready to hold a writing instrument and to make that eye hand coordination and to write exactly how, writing A is a very difficult task. You have to start from a point, come like this, and idhar se shuru karo, and come like this, and right in the middle you have to put a line. So, a child only at the age of 4.5 years is physiologically ready to do this at the age of 4.5 years. And what is happening in preschools? The children are being sent even at 2 years, 2.5 years. And
Ma'am,
then
18 months, 18 months,
just
18
imagine,
months, 18
yeah,
months.
right. And so it is it becomes the responsibility of the school. अच्छा ये school आ रहा है तो इसको कुछ सिखाना पड़ेगा और वो
So, ma'am, do
सिखाना
you
क्या है. So basically going on to that ABC part of it. And I'll tell you what, when the child is not ready, when his hands and his fingers and his eye hand coordination is not ready, he's bound to make mistakes. And that mistakes are pointed out. Regularly those mistakes are pointed out. The mother is saying isko theek nahi likha, isko rub karo, write it again. And actually he's not ready to do that. You know,
we are forcing him to do that?
you're forcing him to do that. Exactly. And then when constantly you're being pointed out about a mistake, there will come a time when you say that I don't want to do it. You
Exactly.
know? Yeah, and that's what happens. Many parents come and tell me, orally to ye sab kuch kar leta hai, but when you ask him to write, he doesn't want to write. Tearing books and throwing books, that is what's happening nowadays. Because we are forcing children to learn too much at too early.
So, ma'am, do
There
you
is
think?
something, can I just share this a
Yes, ma'am,
little
definitely,
thing?
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Share screen, ma'am.
yeah. I'm trying to. Well, I'm not sure.
And you need to
Maybe it's
click.
not coming up.
You need to click on the share screen.
Yeah, I clicked on it, but I think the PowerPoint is open in the Chrome, but I cannot see it. Okay, just a minute.
Yes, it's here.
Stop. It's okay. No, I think we should just let it be. I'm not able to sort it out properly. So that's okay. But what I just wanted to show was the kind of skills that are necessary for for a literacy environment in school. So how do you, even if you how do you understand books? How do you have an attitude towards print? So when we're talking about all these activities, those are the things which need to be done at the preschool level, not your reading writing. You need to prepare the child to do with pre-reading skills, pre-writing skills, and then go on to your reading writing.
There is a question again from Mr. Ganesh Devarajan. He says, are there any government grants for such schools to help in bringing the differently abled children to mainstream? If not, will that help in growth of more such schools?
Will what help in growth of knowledge? Will the government
Like
grant?
grants and all, like when there is nothing where the schools are
See, the
self-funded.
government grants are there. It's not that the government doesn't have schemes. There are loads of schemes. The grants are all there, but it's just difficult to get them. The government schools are, of course, there, but in the private schools, or people who are trying to do quality work with children with special needs, trying to do a lot of training and trying to use good teaching material and actually working on understanding of the children. So they find it very difficult to get the government grants, and that is what I have seen. um, so it's not that the government grants are not there. I would tell Mr. Devarajan that, but they are there. It's difficult to get them. That is another thing, and there's a whole lot of process. You know how it works in the organizations, so it becomes very difficult. But uh, you know, certain government places, like recently we had this Uttarakhand Science Institute and Research Center. I've seen them giving grants to many people, very small grants, to do a particular task. So it's not like grant is given to a school to continue to do whatever they've been doing, but if there's a certain activity that they really want to do it, say in a month or two, so for that certain grants are available. So things are there, but of course it would be um, a big welcome if they're more, if these grants are more easier to get, and people come forward to help out NGOs particularly during this
Ma'am,
period.
there are three questions. First is, how does online education affect children? I think we've
Mm.
already answered that.
Yeah.
Uh, and the second is from Tripti Srivastav. She says, आदरणीय, अगर वीडियो शिक्षा को को लेकर किसी मकसद से बनाया गया है तो उसकी भाषा ऐसी हो जिसको आम आदमी भी समझ सके, लेकिन आपके सभी वीडियो हाई फाई अंग्रेजी लोगों के लिए होता है जिनको आपकी बातों से कोई लेना देना नहीं होता। बेहतर
Mm.
होगा अगर आप हिंदी में अपने उद्देश्य और विचारों को रखें। तृप्ति जी, आपके लिए मैं ये कहना चाहूंगी कि ऐसा नहीं है कि हम हाई फाई अंग्रेजी इस्तेमाल करते हैं, लेकिन अंग्रेजी पूरे विश्व भर में जानी जाती है, ठीक से समझी जाती है, इसलिए हम ज्यादातर अंग्रेजी का इस्तेमाल करते हैं। दूसरी बात यह है कि जरूरी नहीं है कि हम लोग जो बातें आपको अंग्रेजी में बता रहे हैं वो आपको हिंदी में समझ नहीं आएगी, क्योंकि हमारी अंग्रेजी ज्यादा हाईफाई नहीं होती है। कुछ शब्द होते हैं जो हमारे बहुत हाईफाई होते हैं। कृपया आप इस तरह के मैसेजेस हमें ना भेजें तो अच्छा होगा, इससे हमारा बीच का जो क्रम है वो टूटता है।
आई वुड ऑल्सो से एक बात और मैं कहना चाहूंगी कि ऐसा नहीं है कि हर चीज अंग्रेजी में ही हो रही है, एंड आई माई सेल्फ हैव कंडक्टेड अ फ्यू वेबिनार्स इन पर्टिकुलरली ओनली इन हिंदी ऑन प्री रीडिंग स्किल्स, कि किस तरह से इन चीजों को बढ़ावा दिया जाए। एंड ये हो सकता है कि कई जो वीडियोस जो भेजे जा रहे हैं बच्चों के काम के लिए या टीचर्स के उसके लिए, तो आई डोंट नो, शायद सब्जेक्ट वो हो या किस तरीके से किस वीडियोस की आप बात कर रही हैं, सो वी डोंट नो अबाउट थिंग्स लाइक दैट।
तृप्ति जी, शायद जो हमारे ये टॉक सीरीज चल रहा है उसकी बात कर रही हैं, क्योंकि हमारे जो विदेशी मेहमान आते हैं वो हिंदी नहीं बोल सकते और हम उसमें कैप्शंस भी नहीं डाल सकते, क्योंकि हर कोई उस चीज को समझेगा नहीं। दूसरी चीज ये कि आप कृपया इस तरह के मैसेजेस ना डालें। हमारा जो मकसद है वो किसी को नीचे दिखाना नहीं है। हिंदी हमारी राष्ट्रभाषा है और हम उसको बहुत अच्छी तरह से जानते हैं और हम बोलते भी हैं, लेकिन क्योंकि अंग्रेजी ज्यादा लोग समझते हैं, साउथ इंडियंस हिंदी नहीं समझ पाएंगे क्योंकि वो उनकी भाषा नहीं है। हमें तेलुगु या और कोई भाषा बोलनी नहीं आती है। अंग्रेजी एक ऐसी भाषा है जिसको हर कोई समझता है, इसलिए हम अंग्रेजी में कोशिश करते हैं ज्यादा से ज्यादा बोलने की, लेकिन हम बीच में हिंदी भी बोलते हैं।
चलिए, लेट्स गेट ऑन टू आवर।
जी, now Amir Alipin asks, do you feel, ma'am, that parents need education at the time they admit their children? I feel parents from all walks of life need to be given awareness by school. Parents shouldn't just interact with school when result day come and range of complaints unlashed on poorly performing students, who might include children with learning disability.
Uh, uh, I mean, what I have understood from the question is like, and
Parents
what
should
do
be
you mean by parents should be educated? Educated, matlab, are you saying that the parents should have a degree before they actually admit a child into the
Ma'am,
school?
can you see the
Or
question on the
yeah,
screen?
I can see the question. Yeah, need education. If you're talking about what education exactly? Are you talking about the parents' education? Are you talking about educating about the child? You know, that how they should be dealing with the children. Is that the education that we're talking about? So uh, yeah, I mean, the I think it's very important, particularly when you're talking about children with special needs and also preschool children. It's to not limit the parent teacher interaction to just a PTM or something like that. It should be an ongoing interaction. At least, you should be able to talk to the teachers once a week or in 10 days. You call on the parents, let them see what's happening. And particularly what we do when we're talking about IEPs, and we make individual education goals and plans for each child. So we call in the parents, and these goals are made along with the parents, because the parents know the child best. And what we do is what the schools should be doing basically is involving the parent, letting them know what kind of strategies we will be using, because we are all towards one goal. We want the betterment of the child. So if we get the parents help, if what we are doing the parents are also able to do, it gives a greater push towards it. But if we are both of us working in two different tandems, like school is going on its own, and they expect the parents to do it on their own, that doesn't happen, because they need to work together. It is all about collaboration. Yeah, unless that happens, so it becomes important for the schools to be in touch with the parents. At the same time, parents should be more interested as to what is happening with their children, how it's going on, not to the point of you know calling up every day and saying आज क्या किया आपने हमारे बच्चे के साथ and things like that. But they should be more proactive in actually uh, talking to the school and being responsible for the child's education also.
So, ma'am, as far as the entire conversation till now is concerned, we can come up to a conclusion that parents' involvement, teachers' involvement, parent training, teacher training is equally important for
Crucial.
every child. Very
Yes.
crucial, very crucial.
Very crucial.
हर
Yeah.
माँ बाप हर माँ बाप टीचर्स सबको एक ही प्लेटफॉर्म पे आना पड़ेगा अगर हम बच्चों का डेवलपमेंट चाहते हैं, इफ वी रियली वांट देम टू डेवलप,
Exactly.
राइट? सो मैम,
Teachers training. Yeah.
या मैम
Sorry.
प्लीज गो अहेड. No, no, it's
No,
okay,
I
it's
was
okay.
just I was just talking about that. The reason is so many times we actually end up terming these children as not motivated and doesn't want to, naughty, kuch nahi karta hai, and the kind of interaction that goes on. The way we talk to the children. I have one parent actually brought a little young child to me, class of fourth, and she said कि after vacations जब ये बच्चा वापस school गया, so in front of all the other children the teacher asked him तो फिर आ गया. So which child would like to go to a school like that when he's not welcome? So the teacher training, what I feel, not just about the way to teach, and that is more important, of course, but also about your attitude. How a teacher's attitude is towards a child, and that makes or breaks a child basically. It's the attitude comes first and the learning comes later. First you have to like a person to actually start learning from him. When you don't like somebody, you don't learn. So that is why I feel that the teachers training should refer to all these things to a great deal, and they should be able to see that what is the difficulty in the child, and then talk to the child about it, demystify the child, as we say. He is in a mystery, he doesn't know what's happening to me. मैं तो दिन भर पढ़ता हूँ, रात भर पढ़ता हूँ, जाके देखता हूँ कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. So you need to demystify the child and tell him that there is something wrong there. Let us work towards that and करते हैं ठीक in that way.
जी, right.
And
Ma'am,
parents interaction also.
yeah,
Yeah.
last question. uh, what giveaways would you give the parents and teachers?
Like this is what I was just saying, the attitude also should be particularly for the teachers, and not always, depend on the label of the child. You've got a diagnosis from a doctor saying this is what the child is, but I feel that child. You never say an autistic child, a Down syndrome child. You have to say a child with autism. His first child in the special needs is पीछे है. उसके पीछे special need है. वो autism नहीं है. You know, he is not an autism. So first deal with children as children. And every child has a issue or a problem. So that is more important. And I feel for the parents, again, the same thing applies. Respect the child's wishes. Give so many problem solving things, include him in the discussion, and talk about, um, give preference, respect the child, give preference to his wishes also. And a lot of communication and interaction is important because there are so many things that a lack of communication and good environment at the house can affect. So I feel that parents can do a lot even before the child steps into a school, and he takes a lot from home, and that is where the race, when the race is beginning, it determines what kind of a background he had to determine whether how is he going to go into that race. If there is a household where there are, I can see a lot of books behind you right now in your library, but there are many households where there are no books at all. People
Exactly.
don't see any books. No print is coming. So I would say that it is have books around, have a positive attitude towards print, read out storybooks to the children. I asked one of the parents that आपने बच्चों के लिए कुछ books खरीदी हैं? So he said, हाँ मैम मैं कल ही खरीद के लेके आया हूँ, ABCD और I की दोनों की book खरीद के लेके आया. But I said, talking about storybooks, reading stories with a child is so much more important. क्योंकि हम सीधा I से शुरू कर देते हैं, ABCD से शुरू करते हैं. What the hell is A? क्या है वो नहीं पता मुझे. You first tell me a lot about aeroplane and Apple and all those things, then say this is something that stands for that. That will make sense. So I feel the experience is more important. Give a lot of exposure to varied vocabulary, explain to the child, talk about feelings with children. So all these things are so much more important than focusing on just reading and writing. Because I feel this foundation, if these ये छोटी छोटी ईंटें हैं फाउंडेशन में, अगर if there is a gap in one of these bricks, you cannot build a big wall on it. So the foundation needs to be stronger. And then when you send the child to school, they'll build on it and you will build on it.
Definitely. So, in a way, we need to say, in fact, we need to tell the parents and teachers, all of them, that we have to help the kids think. We don't
Exactly.
have to teach them
Yeah.
what you
You
have to
don't
think.
have to feed them everything. Ask,
We
give
need
some.
to build up their
Yeah,
thinking process. We don't have to give them a pre-cooked food ki ab ise tum kha lo. We
exactly.
have to help them. Okay, now this is the food, you take it and you have to eat it.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your time. And
Most welcome.
Mini Kaur ma'am has just joined. She
Mhm.
says, I think both parents and teachers play equal and important role to work with children with
Equal.
specific difficulty. And
Yeah.
I think she's correct. She's correct. Again, we come to the same platform. We need
Yeah.
to come together for the overall development of our children.
Right. Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
So,
much.
thank you. Thank you. It was
Thank
wonderful
you.
talking to you. Okay.
Same here, ma'am. Tomorrow we will be here ends our session. Tomorrow we will be here with Dr. Vinod Chandra Sharma. Please welcome him tomorrow. I'll be posting his creative and all about him very soon. Thank you.